All right, welcome back to the And One Sports Podcast. My name is Riley Viss. Here with me is Blake Parks, and today we'll be talking about the Siouxland War Eagle and a little bit of the Lakes of what happened last week. Not much really happened, but we have some exciting things going down. Our first game, it was one great game. At the end of the first, we went to the George Little Rock and Harris Lake Park game. It was at George. We had George ranked, I believe, number 11, which was a little high. I must admit, it was biased. And Harris Lake Park was just out of the rankings due to the fact that they have a very tough schedule and they played well against everybody. They are 0-5 against top 30 teams, yes. But you know what? That's top 30 teams, and they aren't the best team, but they still have a very good offense there.
Oh, yeah.
So, at the end of the first, it was 20-4 and 20-6, and Harris Lake Park was just laying it to them. They were hot. They were hitting everything. Bubba Sohn and Isaac Einen, they were hot in the first quarter, along with their teammates next to them. They were playing great.
Isaac kind of got off to a slow start. It was more Bubba Sohn and his teammate, number 44, don't remember his name, but he hit a three. He hit one or two threes, and Bubba Sohn hit a three, and he made a layup, so they got out to a quick 11-0 start, and they kind of just laid it on them in the first quarter.
Yeah, they played great in the first quarter, but into the second quarter, it was more kind of George. I mean, Harris Lake Park was still putting up a little bit of points here, but George was making a big comeback. Mm-hmm. And then starting out the second half, it was a lot of George again. They were mounting that 16 point or 14 point count. It was 20-4 at the end of the first, because I remember they had a huge lead. But they were mounting this big comeback, and finally in the fourth quarter, they finally got that lead. Mm-hmm. And Harris Lake Park battled. They ended up getting, I think, a 3 or 4 point lead with about a minute left. And then George Little Rock just came back. And we actually have a play for you right here. It is Ben Anderson with a go-ahead layup at the buzzer to win the game over Harris Lake Park. And we will roll it here.
Hold on.
What'd you guys think of that? It was a pretty crazy one. Yeah, he was wide open. The defense was not there. They were trying to triple team, I think, Peyton Malden, and just let Ben sneak behind him. Ben's actually a very good player. He is fast. He's strong. He plays with emotion, and he's a very good player. He doesn't let people walk all over him on the court, and he gets very aggressive with people.
And also to add to that, he is also a very good shooter. He doesn't maybe shoot it as much as what he should, because his shot, he got a great shot, but he just doesn't shoot it all the time because you got Peyton and Haken and stuff. But if you let him shoot it, it's guaranteed to almost make every time.
Yep. He has a very clean, fast shot. It's almost like Steph Curry, kind of. I mean, he just gets it out there really fast, and it's hard for defenders to guard that and get their hand up in time. And then we will move on to Friday. I went to the Boyden Hall Sioux Center game because I knew it'd be a fun game to watch, and it was a fun game to watch because it was a very physical game, and it was actually a 1-point game midway through the third quarter, and then all of a sudden Boyden Hall just got hot, and Sioux Center couldn't guard them no more. They ran out of energy, and actually it's Eli Hibma. He actually went out with a knee injury, hoping for the best for him. He was helped off the court. It looked like an ACL injury. I'm not quite sure, though. But he went off with a bad injury and never came back in the third quarter. And, yeah, ever since then, they couldn't stop Boyden Hall from being so aggressive. Boyden Hall is very much a second-half team this year. And very fundamental, slow-paced. And you know what? they have so many scores, it doesn't matter who you double team, somebody else is going to score. Like, they have 2 star scorers, and then you could even count Mosier as a star scorer. They have so many scores, you literally cannot stop this team by double teaming because you will be hurt somewhere else. You gotta man up, play physical defense, and the only team that's gonna beat them is a very good defensive team. And it's holding true to this point.
Yeah, and I was, of course, not at that game, but I was keeping up to date with the score, and Sioux Center had a lead, I think, going into halftime, didn't they?
I believe they were up by 1, if I remember correct.
Yeah, and then I saw Boyden Hall was leading by 1. I thought it was going to be a close game the rest of the way, and then put my phone away for a little bit, watched the game I was at, and next thing I know, it's about a 20-point game. I was like, what is going on?
And actually, what actually happened was Tanner Tesla ends the night with 35 points. I believe he scored 15 straight points. I believe he hit, I think he hit 5 bunnies in a row. Just 5 little mid-range jumpers, and then stepped outside, hit a 3-pointer, and then hit an easy layup. Dane Brunson, if you're watching this, next time you have a wide open layup, you should probably dunk it because you missed your layup, bud. But anyways, Tanner Tesla with an impressive 35 points Friday night. Very good performance by him, and that definitely sparked that big run for Boyden Hall. They were actually almost up by 30 at one point, and then backups came in. And we aren't going to put it in here because it's on Twitter, and I couldn't quite get it saved on my phone, but by far the biggest block of the year I have ever seen. Maybe even last year. Jonathan Tesla trailing. He's a junior. He was trailing. He was a trailing defender, and someone went to stop the driver, stopped him. He went up for a layup, and Jonathan Tesla came down, and oh my God, you could hear the slap probably from outside the gym. That was by far the loudest block I've heard in a very long time in high school basketball.
I saw that video. I think I was the person taking the video was on the other side of the court. I think I heard a little bit, or I heard a lot of it. Like it was not a nice. I mean, it was a nice block, but whoever shot it probably didn't seem like, oh, that's not a nice block. But
he got up there and everything, man. He was so high up in the air and just swatted that ball. I'm telling you, the entire gym got hyped. I even think Sioux Center fans were cheering. Wouldn't be surprised. But anyways, Boyden Hall comes out with an 80-57 victory over Sioux Center. That was at Boyden Hall. Big rivalry game there. Both teams absolutely hate each other. And there were shoving, there was tackling, there was everything in this game. And Boyden Hall comes out victorious because in the end, the best team came out. So, and we'll move on to the Rock Valley and Sibley game that Blake attended.
Yeah, so I went to the Rock Valley Sibley game, like he said. The drive up there wasn't too nice once you got to George, but we got there safely, made it back safely, which is good. And I think to start this one, I think Sibley kind of gave a run for their money. They kept it close. They started out, I think, a 4-0 run. Then Rock Valley started scoring. Then I think Rock Valley ended up taking the lead a little bit. They kept it close. And then, and then the second quarter, we had more scoring. We got up by quite a few. And then, for some reason, the Sibley coach, he got so mad that he took all 5 players that were playing on the court. I'm pretty sure they were starters. He took them off. He put a new 5 in. They scored maybe 8 points in a row. Like, it was insane. And I was not happy, but, that's basketball. And then they kind of started out their comeback. Going into halftime, they weren't down by much. And then third quarter, the Rock Valley big man, Sam, I forgot his last name top of my head right now, but he ended up fouling out with 3 minutes left of the third quarter. He got into foul trouble. And to be honest, Vandermeer should have taken him out till the fourth quarter. They could have used him. He was rebounding left and right. And then into the fourth quarter, they were up, I think, 20 points. And there's about 3 minutes left or so. Vandermeer decided to pull a few starters a little bit in at a time until we had all 5 subs in. But Sibley coach, he did not put any of his subs in. So instead of it being 20 points, it came down to like 15, 14, and then all of a sudden Vandermeer's like, oh crap, they're about to come back. So he tried sprinkling in a few starters, but the starters did not get in until it got down to maybe 10 to 8 point lead, and then there's a foul, and then eventually we got him in, and yeah, the score ended up being 75-64 at the end of the night. Rock Valley's best scorer is Alex Gottfredson. He's not, I don't know if you want to say necessarily physical, but he will get into you and he will take shots that he thinks is necessary. He's not one to force up a shot like some Rock Valley people, but yeah, at the end of the night he had finished with 14, 16 points, not sure, somewhere's in that range.
Sounds like a fun game to be at.
It was a fun game. This came after Sibley girls got their first win on the year. Clear, one of the loudest girls games you will ever hear. Like, they got excited. The coach was yelling at the players. He was yelling at a freshman who was starting. And then, yeah, all of a sudden the girls game got hype. The Sibley ended up winning that one. And then that kind of came into effect with the boys game. But Rock Valley ended up taking it by 11 points.
We will actually give you scores from around the conference, around the area now. We will quickly read them off for you. Actually, another big game. MOC and George Little Rock. We actually were predicting this game. I had -12, Blake had -6. I was one off. That would have been crazy if I would have gotten it. But MOC was up by 20, I believe, the entire game.
Yeah.
George Little Rock was not ready for this game at all. And Peyton Malden and Matt Haken could not out-rebound Cosby, and it showed big time. So MOC comes out victorious there, remaining 7-1, I believe. Yes, sir. All right, and then Westline comes out easily beating Sheldon, 77-62. Sheldon's now 2-6. Mm-hmm. Westline bumps up to 5-3.
And I wouldn't necessarily call that an easy win, because I think the whole fourth quarter, it was within about 4 or 6 points. But then Sheldon, their shooters ended up stopped being hot, and then their defense just kind of fell. They were turning the ball over left and right. And Westline, it shows on the scoreboard that they went down and took those turnovers and put them into points.
Yeah, for sure. Westline is actually starting to get attention across the state as a very good team this year, as they have a 5-3 record. Their 3 losses came all 3 in a row. It was to Rock Valley, St. Thomas, South Dakota, and Boyden Hall. Mm-hmm. What better losses than that so far? That's pretty good losses. They actually don't face... They have a very tough competition at Spirit Lake coming up next week, I believe it is. That's going to test how good they really are, because Spirit Lake is really good this year too. They're both on the edge of our top 15 rankings. They're both at the... they're both receiving votes, so they're like right there. Not quite in yet, though. Central Line comes out on Okoboji, and this actually shocked a lot of people in the area. Mm-hmm. 75-73 was your final score. I believe it was at Okoboji.
It was not.
No, it was at Central Line.
At Central Line. Yep. And they were down by quite a bit. Then they fought back. Around halftime, it was tied. And then... yeah, it kind of kept it close the whole game. They got down by maybe 6 in the fourth quarter, but they fought back and they overtook that lead, I think, with about 3 seconds left.
Now this is my favorite score. Western Christian in Hall versus Sergeant Bluff Luton in double overtime. Sergeant Bluff Luton, if you haven't heard about them, they are top 10 in 3A right now. They are doing very good. They have a bunch of very physical, athletic players. But Western Christian comes out 68-64 in double overtime. I actually could have gone to that. I rode past, but it looked like everybody was leaving.
I was listening to it on the radio, and I caught it in, I think double overtime was when I caught it. But when they said that Sergeant Bluff had, I think, 3 or 4 players that fouled out when Western had 1. And
that'll determine the game.
Yeah. But Western, I think, could have finished it out in regulation as they were up. What was it? I think it was 11 or so points going, I think, with like a minute, like 2 minutes left, 2 or 3 minutes. And then all of a sudden, Sergeant Bluff just came storming back. They tied the game up, went overtime. Then they kind of traded baskets, so it went another overtime. And then, Western kind of just shut Sergeant Bluff down. And they made a clutch shot towards the end, and then somebody who has not missed a free throw, I think, this whole season. Or I don't think he shot a free throw, but he made 2 clutch ones there to put him up by 4, and that is how the game ended as a 68-64 win for Western.
That's crazy. And actually reading this, Daniel Wright, the star player for for Sergeant Bluff, was held to 0 points until the second overtime when he hits a 3.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy there. But an easy coasting win for South O'Brien over HMS, 55-30. Remsen St. Mary's struggles against Lamar's Galen Catholic, 53-47. I think they're just ready for the playoffs. I think coming out of Christmas break, they probably weren't ready for this one.
Yeah.
And I think Galen's trying to make a point here. They have an awful record right now, and they're trying to bounce back. And then we have a very big win here for Spirit Lake, staying on top of the Lakes Conference, comfortably in first, I'd say.
Yeah.
61-53 over top of Cherokee. And that is it for our local scores. And actually Saturday, Blake has a score for us from Saturday.
There was Lamar's taking on Sioux Center. I believe it was at Lamar's. Lamar's ended up taking it 71-30. Or it was 70-31. One of those two scores. But yeah, it was a blowout win for Lamar's. I just don't think Sioux Center was ready to play for it on a Saturday, even though they should probably come out. But, it's the weekend, and people usually don't do much on the weekend. I don't think we're ready for it.
Their star player, Wilson, actually, it's unfortunate for them because, he plays good. It's just he doesn't do enough. He can get to the rim every single time if he wanted to, but he doesn't. He just kind of sits back and relaxes until he gets a little emotional or gets elbowed or something. Then he gets physical for about 5 minutes, and then he just kind of sits back and relaxes.
Yeah, and he's a tall and a fairly bigger kid, so you think he'd probably push around maybe some of the players, maybe not like Van Kalsbeek or Haken or something like that.
He needs to be on top of the conference rebounding and scoring with Van Kalsbeek. Yes, he's as big as him, but he's not as strong as him.
Yeah.
You still need to get in there.
See, he's like, 6'8", 6'9", maybe?
I think he's like 6'6" or something.
6'8",
I'm not sure.
No, but he's one of the taller kids in this conference, so you'd think he'd be at one of the top 3 at least.
Must have a bad taste in his mouth after Dante blocked him at the rim in AAU basketball tournament. Attaboy, Dante. Anyways, let's head over to the Lakes Conference. In first is Spirit Lake sitting at 5-2. Western Christian in second at 4-2. Spencer at 3-3 in third. Cherokee at fourth at 4-3. Storm Lake and Estherville Lincoln Central both at 3-3, rounding out the Lakes Conference at 5th and 6th. Now we will head over to the War Eagle.
All right, so War Eagle, of course, on top. Well, not of course, but you kind of expected it. West Sioux's on top with 8-0, and Rumsen's in I would say maybe a close second right now at 6-0. South O'Brien in third with a 5-2. With 5-1, we have Unity. Hinton's at 5 with 5-2. Harris Lake Park is probably one of the best three-win teams in this conference at 3-5. Yeah, they have 5 losses, but I think they still play really tough. Number 7, we have HMS at 3-3. Galen Catholic at 2-6. Trinity at number 9 with 5-2. At 1-6.
2-5.
2-5.
They're not 5-2.
My bad. Number 10, we have MMCRU with 50 million towns and still have a 1-6 record. And Akron Westfield rounding it out at 0-6.
MMCRU, I love you guys this year. You guys aren't last for once. Congratulations. But let's talk about this conference a little bit. Unity has a better record than South O'Brien, but they lost to South O'Brien 69-61, and that was actually at home on a Friday night, and they fell. So they do not bump past them, unfortunately. And you look at our 1 and 2, they are not going to move. 8-0 and 6-0, Remsen and West Sioux, they are not moving. They are staying first and second the rest of the year. I don't care what happens, because South O'Brien needs to beat Remsen twice now just to pass them. And they're 2.5 games back.
And they've lost one time to Remsen at home.
and that gives them that half game.
Yeah.
The 2 losses and then the half game due to the tiebreaker.
Mm-hmm.
And then West Sioux, actually, I believe they beat them as well.
They did beat them first game of the year by 1.
By 1, 55-54 at South O'Brien.
South O'Brien. But I think when South O'Brien comes to West Sioux, I don't think that'll be that close of a game.
15-point game is what I'm calling. Maybe even 20.
At least 15, I'd say.
Right. But otherwise, this conference is starting to shape up as normal. My tiers are first and second with West Sioux and Remsen, and then South O'Brien and Unity sitting at third and fourth, and then Hinton and Harris Lake Park kind of alone at fifth and sixth with HMS, I guess. You could put HMS with them. And then Galen is trying to jump into that little area there because they're starting to play good again.
Mm-hmm.
And then Trinity is kind of by themselves with MMCRU, and then Akron's at the way bottom by themselves.
And I'm just going to put this out there. We did say this was a 4-team conference. I would not actually be surprised if Hinton would make this a 5-team conference, but for sure it's 1 and 2 is done basically for the year. Right. But I wouldn't mind seeing Hinton maybe if they start winning a few, maybe if they win against Unity or South O'Brien, I would not mind seeing them jump into the 3rd spot or 4th spot.
You won't see much about them until the 17th when they play West Sioux, and then they have to wait till early February to play South O'Brien and Remsen. So, yeah, and Galen. They played Galen twice yet this year.
Yeah. So,
they have their entire schedule right in front of them yet.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the season. They haven't really played much, which is...
They did lose to Remsen St. Mary's.
By 15,
yep.
Home. And then got killed by Unity. So, I mean, they're not really going to push up into that top 4 anytime soon unless they can start playing differently.
Yeah. But like I said, maybe by the end of the year is what I'm kind of seeing.
Yeah, I mean, but in like 2 weeks, we're going to really see who's who.
Yeah.
That's going to determine who is who.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll head over to the Siouxland. We have a tie for first. We can't put Boyden Hall in front of MOC, but record-wise, MOC, if the conference ended today, MOC would win it. But we do power rankings. We aren't doing the actual rankings. We do power rankings. So we technically have Boyden Hall at first because, let's be honest, Boyden Hall did slip up in their first game. They didn't come out and play. They didn't have chemistry very well together. They have a bunch of young athletes coming up and playing. So, yeah, they did lose that game. But they've also been destroying everybody in their path lately, except for Rock Valley and West Lyon, but they also beat them by 11 on the road both times. So, like, that's pretty impressive, to be honest. And then once they play them at home, it's probably going to be a 15-point win. But then we have Boyden Hall and MOC. Boyden Hall is 6-1. MOC is 7-1. They're tied for first and second. Then we have George Little Rock at 5-4 in third, barely. West Lyon and George are literally a string away from each other. They're basically tied. And this next week is really going to see who's going to jump up there. And then we actually have Okoboji at 5-4, Rock Valley at 4-3. Those guys are basically tied too. And the reason Rock Valley cannot jump West Lyon and Okoboji is because they did lose to Okoboji, but West Lyon is better than Okoboji. Rock Valley did beat West Lyon, but if you want to get into all the head-to-head crap, you're going to have a messy conference, and it's going to be a hectic time trying to figure out who's who. So we keep Rock Valley at the 6th seed right now, but let me tell you guys, in the next couple of weeks, they will more than likely be moving up to the 5, maybe even the 4. Probably not the 4 yet, maybe later in the season. But if they don't watch themselves, Central Lyon is coming for them. Let's see, where's Central Lyon? Central Lyon is... They just beat Okoboji. They barely lost to Sheldon. They had a bunch of road games, and they lost them, and they also beat Sioux Center. Central Lyon's coming, man. And they will eventually play each other for that position, and Rock Valley will probably win. But so we have Central Lyon at 3-4, sitting in 7th. At 8th is Sioux Center at 2-5. Sheldon is at 9th, comfortably at 2-6. And Sibley is 0-6. Sibley will get a win. Trust me, don't worry. They will eventually win. I'm guessing they will beat Nobody in the Siouxland. Everybody in the Siouxland's actually tough. Don't let Sioux Center and Sheldon's records really spook you because they're better than what you think they are. Yeah, Sioux Center just got killed by Lamar's, but they also just got killed by Boyden Hall. So you really think that they're very excited to go to Lamar's and play? Probably not. But there's their conference. Any surprises here? I guess I'm kind of surprised Rock Valley's still in 6th for their production, but the top 6 really is tough.
Really no big surprises other than, I guess, Central Lyon beating Okoboji. Yeah, that was kind of a surprise, but Okoboji's also not what we thought they would have been this year. We thought they would have been better.
They aren't producing like they should be.
Yes.
They have 2 very good athletes, and they just aren't doing what they need to be doing.
Like, they have the players and everything they need to be a good team. They're not getting it done.
Yep.
And, like you said, Sibley, 0-6, they will get a win. To who? I'm not sure. I think if they play Sheldon and Sheldon has their off night, like they just don't come out ready to play, they're not hot, I think Sibley could win a game like that, but otherwise, I'm not sure who else they beat in the Siouxland because the Siouxland's so tough.
Yep. All right, that rounds out our conference rankings, and we will actually take a look at next week. We have the biggest game of the year in the War Eagle Conference. It is number 4 in 2A, West Sioux at number 1 in 1A, Remsen St. Mary's. Oh man, this is a game, one of the biggest games in the state so far. In 1A and 2A classes. We're going to quickly kind of round this out. We're going to look at some stats here. Bryce Kopic leads the entire, both teams at 25.4 points per game, shooting 56%. But if you don't know about percentages, that's very impressive. Spencer Shorg, we'll have him on the podcast later this season. He is averaging 19.2, shooting 47%, and 40% from the 3. That's impressive as well. And then rebounds, Blake, what we got here?
Rebound, we have Baxter Walsh with 7.9. He went up from last week, but he's averaging 1.5 offensive rebounds a game. And if he does that quite a bit, West Lyon will take, I think West Lyon, oh my goodness, West Sioux, my bad. And then we have Austin Jensen, who is a sophomore, averaging 5.2 rebounds a game for Remsen St. Mary's, but he's averaging 1.8 offensive rebounds, almost 2 offensive rebounds a game.
Looks like the only way Remsen's really going to be able to win this one is if they rebound. And hopefully they can. We look at assists real quick. Spencer Shorg from Remsen has 4 assists a game, and Bryce Kopic is at 4.9. Not really surprised that we aren't seeing Hunter Deckers up here because he's probably mainly focusing on his Iowa State career for football next year, so he's probably a little laid back. As we look at more stats here, total rebounds, 38 for West Sioux a game and 27 a game for Remsen. It's going to come down to if Remsen can make their shots. If they don't have a good night shooting, they're probably not going to take this one. They need to be very aggressive on defense, as West Sioux is one of the leading scorers in the entire state, scoring 86.6 points per game. And you don't see that in Iowa.
And that is with 100-point game and 2 90-point games as of now.
Yep. West Sioux comes out averaging 86 points per game, while Remsen comes out averaging 62. So Remsen really needs to slow this pace down. But I have West Sioux by 7 in this one. I think they just are a lot more physical, bigger size and everything. Blake, what do you got here?
I'm not sure it's going to be a great game. Depends, is Harpinall back?
We aren't sure. I wish we knew.
I guess if he plays, that might have a factor in what my decision would be for the score wise. And we'll have a look real quick.
He's not
it
back.
It does not look like he is back.
Of the game against HMS, but they also played Galen. He might be back for this game. He might not be. If he is back, it's going to be a closer game. If he's not back, I am easily taking West Sioux.
Yeah, so if he's not back, I think I'll take West Sioux by 10 in this one. But I think that if he is back, I think it might be a 4-point game in favor of West Sioux.
Right. All right, and then we will look at the George Little Rock Valley game. Both teams are right outside of their respected classes of the rankings. They're both receiving votes. This one is going to be a fun game. Mm-hmm. Who you got in this one, Blake?
I mean, George is hot right now. I mean, they did just come off a loss to MOC. But if Rock Valley can play defense and can stop Peyton Malden from scoring and can box out and play really well defense on Haken. But I think I might take Rock Valley in this one by 3.5.
I'm going to actually take George Little Rock in this one by 2. I think it's going to come down to the end, but I think George just has a little bit more size than Rock Valley. Sort of, not really. They're just a little bit better of a team, but this will really destroy our rankings. Yeah. So the rankings will be way different next week if Rock Valley wins. So, that is basically it for the podcast.
I'm going to add one more thing to that one. You said Rock Valley didn't really have size. Well, if you look at their guard wise, they do have basically about the same size. But maybe post is where I can see where we don't have the size, as Sam is not quite as big as Sam Remberdy's his name. I didn't remember, but I don't think he quite has the. He has the height. I think he's about the same height as Haken, but I don't think he has the size or not enough muscle to muscle it out with him. I honestly think he might end up falling out in this game. Not for sure, but I think that Haken is a little bit better than him, considering Sam is a sophomore.
Yeah, it should be a really fun game. But due to low on time, we are actually going to end it here. And we will be back next week, Sunday, for a very exciting new podcast. It's going to be a very exciting podcast, as we're going to have a lot of changes in the conference rankings. But anyways, this is Riley Viss, this is Blake Parks, and that is it for us on the N1 Sports Podcast.